Welcome to the Third Generation Wealth Podcast. This is episode number 109. I am your host, Amir Estimo. I appreciate you. First of all, let's say, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this podcast episode because you could be doing anything in this world. The fact that you're listening to this podcast episode is much appreciated. So, first of all, I'd like to say thank you, as I always like to open up the podcast. For any new listeners, I appreciate you listening to the podcast as I have noticed the downloads have been going up. So, any new listener to the podcast, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Amir Estimo, and again, I am the host of the Think Generational podcast. And this is a podcast where we talk personal finance, where we talk credit repair, where we talk wealth, where we talk anything that's related to generational wealth building. So if you are first time listening, welcome. Hopefully this podcast is of content to you that you can be able to share this podcast and subscribe to the podcast as this podcast will be launching, not launching, but will be recorded or published every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. So every Wednesday, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, you will be getting a new podcast episode. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead. We got that out the way. Let's go ahead and jump into the podcast episode. So today's podcast episode is basically a summary of a book I've recently read called The Millionaire Fastlane by NJ DeMarco. Now, when I contemplated this book for a while, actually just listening to the book for a while. I was not sure if I was going to enjoy this book, like this book. The reviews were mixed, so I wasn't 100% sure about this book. But let me tell you something. If you listen to this book with an open mind, because this book is actually probably one of the best audible books or books that I've purchased that were actually I really enjoyed. Because the book basically break down the how you get wealthy, how you get rich, wherever you want to go. Okay? And I thought this book was very valuable. There was a lot of nuggets in this book. This book was very dense. It's very long. It's probably I think 12 hours listen, something like that on Audible. But it took me a while to listen to the book. And let me tell you, after actually almost done with the book, literally only got like one more chapter to go. I've learned so much in this book. I've learned a lot in this book. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So the 5 key lessons I've learned in this book. Number one, again, so this book, there's difference of opinions in this book. Some people may feel offended, some people may not. To each his own, okay? Be very open-minded when listening or reading this book. Now, the 5 key lessons that I learned in this book. Number one was there's 3 types of people. Now, there is the sidewalk, number one. Now, the sidewalk is someone that is living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, their mentality is to look rich. Now, an example of that would be Instagram, any social media platform, maybe Twitter, whatever. I don't even think it's Twitter anymore. It's X. I think they changed the name. And someone who maxes out their credit cards, or someone who keeps chasing job to job. This is someone that is living paycheck to paycheck, wants to look rich, but instead of being rich. Now, again, going back to social media, you see a lot of these people now, so-called influencers, and they portray a lifestyle of, well, I'm traveling the world and I'm living in a big house and all that, but they are actually poor. They are living in the sidewalk, or they're someone who has a job and is chasing jobs. So you're going from one job to another because time is involved in this. Therefore, you are living a sidewalk. So you're not actually someone who's rich. You act like you're rich. So if you are in this space, you are considered someone in the sidewalk. The second lesson was the slow leg. Now, the slow leg is someone who's a mediocrity. This is someone who works a 9 to 5 job and who thinks they can get rich off their job. I recorded an episode a while back ago. I can't remember the name, but I'll put it in the show notes once I figure it out. I asked the question was, can you pass your job to the next generation? And to be honest, the answer is no. You can't pass a job. I remember a few years ago, because if this is your first time listening to this podcast, I will give you a brief story. So I'm currently in IT, but I would probably say I'm more now pursuing a IT entrepreneur. So I actually have side gigs that I do on the side because eventually I like to leave my 9 to 5. This is not something I want to do forever. Okay, and I remember I'd probably say about 2 years ago, maybe it's been a year ago, could be something like that. I had someone on my team that passed away. Literally, I would say not even a week later, they were already filling his position. So it goes to tell you a job doesn't care about you. They will replace you in a heartbeat. Okay. And the person who's in this slow lane is like they believe, well, I can get rich maxing out my 401k or in investing or in the stock market. I can get rich. But what you don't realize is in the 401k and in the stock market, you don't control what happens because what did you remember in 2008? If you were around in 2008, what you remember, right, was many people had 401ks that lost 50%, sometimes all 100% of the value. They lost all their money in the market. So you don't want to just put your money all in one basket, right? Which is a 401k or the stock market. You want to be able to diversify. And this person here believes hourly time, hourly wage time, hours worked on the job equals your yearly salary. So if if you get paid $20 an hour times how many hours, 40 hours, that's like 800. You believe you can actually be rich, right? So this is someone in the slow lane or a yearly salary. Your job gives you a yearly salary. You believe you can be rich, but this is actually a slow lane. The third person is the fast lane. So this person actually builds systems, okay? And for example, Amazon is considered would be a perfect example. They built a system, just a distribution system. So to the point now, you can actually order something on Amazon. And if you have the Amazon Prime, you will get your product either the same day or the next day. Okay. Or like in McDonald's, how they built a system. There's not a McDonald's you don't go to where they don't have hamburgers, they don't have the same food, the same fries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a fast man is someone who builds a system and a business, and that's how they get rich. So those are the three types of people. Now, now he goes on to talk about the 5 commandments, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. So the 5 commandments would be number one, the commandment of need. An example would be, for example, a business, right? That's you're not starting a business because of doing what you love. Because people don't care about what you love. People care about what they need. They have a problem that needs to be solved. That is why you build a business. You don't build a business because, well, I love this and I'm passionate about this. This is why I'm building this business. I'll give you a quick example. I remember a Jamaican restaurant that opened in my city. and I won't say my city, but the city that's near us. I live in Dallas, Texas, but this was in the Metroplex, but one of the suburbs called Frisco. So this business opened up, and I remember I was telling myself, I said, the area they opened this business is not a good idea. Because number one, if you don't really know about Jamaican food, you're not really going to try it, right? You may not, it depends, right? But that area, not only was competition, but the area itself, they are not familiar with the food. So therefore, it's not, you're not going to get that type of business. Now, if they had opened this business in, let's say, example, South Dallas, this would have been a better idea because in South Dallas, there's a different population, different demographic there, and they're more aware, cognizant of Jamaican food. Needless to say, I think the business shut down either during COVID or before COVID. I remember going back, and then another thing too was I actually went there a few times, and I gave it a chance the first time, the second time, the third time. After the third time, I was like, "This is not. The food wasn't good. The Jamaican food is enriched. It's spicy. It's good, right? But it's like they dumbed the food down to fit their population when they should not have done that. They should have kept it and kept it authentic, right? So, needless to say, the business shut down. So that's it. Or you can't go open a clothing store in an area that's predominantly and make probably a bunch of old people there. So you're not going to get that type. You're not going to get that. That's not a biz. That's not a need. So that was one of the commandments. Commandment number two, venture. You want to enter a you want to enter a business where the barrier of entry is high, not low. For example, someone starting a business on TikTok, that's a low entry, or someone starting a business on Facebook, that's a low barrier of entry because everybody's really doing that, right? But not everybody is doing Amazon or you could say drop shipping or not everybody's. That's a business that has a barrier of entry that is high. So therefore, you're not going to get many people that's going to copy your business. Okay. Whereas anybody can copy, or let's say even you want to start a YouTube channel, you want to start a YouTube business or affiliate marketing, the barrier of entry is very low. Basically, anybody can do that. Okay. So this would prevent someone, or even a podcast, that's a low barrier of entry, right? Because anybody can start a podcast. And I've started a podcast and I'm a person that started a podcast. But the thing is about when it comes to that business, right? Even though you may start it, not everyone lasts. I've been doing podcasting on and off for three years now. And I don't know how many podcasts started. They recorded 4 or 5 episodes and then they realized how difficult it is and they quit. So the thing about it is with this commandment, I think it's twofold. One, yes, it could be a low like a business like podcasting, YouTube could be a low bit of entry, but is someone going to be consistent enough to stick to it? That's going to be the key. Okay. The third commandment is the commandment of control. Now, if you build your whole business model on a platform, Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or whatever, you don't have control. Or even affiliate marketing or even multi level marketing, you don't have control what happens. Because, for example, like affiliate marketing, you can promote a product, be affiliated with a product, and you promote it. And let's say that company gets bankrupt. Whoa, there you go. Another one is multi level marketing. You make money based off what your downline is making. If your downline makes no money, you don't make no money. So that's nothing, that's something you cannot control. What you can control is if you do build a business like something like Amazon, I mean, not Amazon, but if you do build a business that is, but you want to build a business off social media, what you want to be able to do is capture the emails and put it into a database. Because if you ever, for any chance, get shut down on YouTube, get shut down on, you get shut down on not Amazon, but you get shut down on any social media platform, you actually have an email database that you can still push your content to. Versus if you do get shut down on TikTok or something, you don't control that. So therefore, you don't want to build a business where it's relying on somebody on something else. You want to be able to, even though you can have 100 million followers. I'm just being I'm just being extra here, but you can have 1,000 followers, 10,000 followers. But what you want to do is you want to be able to take those followers off the platform you're using and send them to your email database. Okay. Your next is the commandment of scale. The commandment of scale would be an example of someone who's doing a barbershop, right? They got a barbershop, they're cutting hair, $10. That's hard to scale a business like that. Versus if they were able to take, let's say they open a business in one area and then they open this business in different locations, maybe different city, whatever, you can be able to scale something like that. But if all you're doing is coming in and cutting hair, coming in and cutting hair, cutting hair, cutting hair, it's hard for you to scale that business. So versus like McDonald's can scale because there's a McDonald's almost in every corner, right? Every corner is a McDonald's, Chick-fil-A. You can scale that business. I remember in the area I live, McDonald's came in the area, Burger King came in the area, Wendy's came in the area. So you can scale those businesses. Okay, so you want to be able to build something that is scalable, like a software business or even a content business. Those are scalable. And also, he talked about the law of affection. So what the law of affection is to be rich, to be wealthy, you want to be able to impact a lot of people. Okay. So if you impact 1 million people, you're going to be wealthy. If you don't, for example, Amazon impacts a lot of people. So that's why Jeff Bezos is what I think he's the second richest man in the world now. Elon Musk is another one. Tesla, he's the richest man in the world. I'm not sure. I don't know if they are who's rich, and I don't really care. But that's an example of someone because they impact so many people, therefore they're able to be rich. Okay. So that's the law of affection, which ties into the commandment of time, which is the next commandment. This one here is if you have to show up to a job or your business every single day, your time is tied to your business, which means you don't have a business, you got a job. I have family members who opened a business, and guess what? They are working in the business, not on the business. So that would be, if you want to check out this book called The E Myth, okay, The E Myth by Michael Gerber, I think his name is, that he explains that in perfect what that is, command having time. You don't want to build a business where you're working in the business. You want to build a business where you're working on the business. You don't want to where you have to show up. An example probably like the podcast, my podcast. If I don't show up on this podcast, yeah, I can probably get downloads, but eventually what's going to happen, the download numbers are going to go down and down and down because I have to come here. Even though I enjoy podcasting. So that's why I do this, right? But if you have to be in, you have to also always show up to your business. Therefore, you're violating the commandment of time. Okay. So therefore, you don't have a business, you have a job. Okay. And then the fifth takeaway I got out of this is you want to build actually, before I get into the fifth takeaway, another one I liked out of this book was he talked about how in society we are trained to be consumers, not producers. Okay. For example, you go on social media, you're on TikTok or you're on YouTube, whatever, you're scrolling, 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 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all you're doing is consuming content. You're not actually producing content. You want to change your mindset from consumer to producer. An example would be like if you were to go McDonald's, you don't want to just go and order whatever meal. And I'm sorry, man, if I'm using McDonald's as an example. I don't really eat McDonald's, and I haven't ate McDonald's in years. But I like I like their business model. Okay. Now, McDonald's, you just go in there, you order your meal, and that's it, right? But what you want to think about is how, for example, who manufactures the how do they get their supplies? Okay. How does who makes their food? Okay. These are the things you want to think of. You want to think of more high level versus, okay, if you you go to, let's say you look at their packaging, man, how their packaging, I could probably package this a lot better, right? So McDonald's would be a perfect example. Instead of saying going in there and just buying the food, look out the business model. How are they staying in business? How is McDonald's? What are they doing? Okay, where are they getting supplies from? Who's manufacturing? Who's their supplier? These type of things you want to think about. So you want to go from produce. You want to go from consumer mindset to producer. And the last but not least, he talked about was build a brand, not a business. Okay, for example, Coke is a brand. Because if you build a brand, you will be rich. You will stay. A business does not last long because what happens is they're not a brand. For example, I'm not a big soda drinker, but when I do often, once in a while, have a soda, and that, what I mean by that, it can be like once every 3 months. Guess what I'm buying? Coca-Cola. Because their brand, Coca-Cola's brand is a powerful brand. It's all over the world. And not only that, Coca-Cola, when you get their whatever you order, you like their stuff. You know, now you may some people that might be a Pepsi person, right? You don't want to just build a business. You want to build a brand because a brand is going to last long. Okay. And another thing he talked about, this is a bonus, is he talked about why he enjoys getting customer complaints because it gives him an opportunity to get better. There's some companies they don't they don't they don't really want to get any reviews. Any bad review, they just want to sweep it under the rug. You don't want to do that because he talks about, he said that in the book. He mentioned how you want to have an army of, what was the word? He said you want to have an army of people you want to have ambassadors for your brand, right? HR, human resources. You want to have human resources. That's what he used. Is because you want people to talk good about your business. The more good you have, people are spreading the word about your business. And even if you do get you get a bad review, you get a customer complaint, investigate that complaint. Just don't sweep it under the rug. Okay? He talks about that. He talks about how your people need to be buy-in because you can't be in your business all the time. You just can't be there. But if he talked about, he gave an example of a hotel in Vegas, how he went to I think it was the Rio, and I can't remember the other hotel in Vegas, but the one that was not as, I could say, classy, the Rio, he said, didn't look as, it didn't look all, didn't have all the bells and whistles. Their customer service was so much more better than the other one. I think it's the Venetian Hotel. I'm not sure. Whatever it was in Vegas, it's um, that hotel, immaculate, floors look all nice and all that, but they had the worst customer service. And he said that he would never come back to that hotel again. And I remember there's a restaurant, I'm not going to say its name, but when me and my wife first moved to Dallas and our family, we went to this restaurant. And our first time, this was my first time I can honestly say I experienced, I don't know if it was just, some would say it's racism, okay? Because I remember we came in there and we sat down there and we waited for like 35 minutes, never got water, never got cups filled. We had to wave the waiter down and say, hey, are you going to take our order? Never. And then happened to be an older lady come in, literally maybe 15 minutes after us. We sit down. She got her cup filled. She was a white lady. She got her cups filled, and she already got her meal while we never got it. Finally, went up to the manager. I said, "Hey, what is going on here? We've been waiting, blah blah." So, to the point, me and my wife were so upset that we got up and we left. So we just thought, okay, maybe it's just that location. We went to another location. It was something similar. So that tells me it's not just the location, it's the culture. Because you can have it at one location, but you can't have it at two, three locations. And this happened twice. So therefore, you know what? Me and my wife, till this day, it's been probably 5 years since we ate at that location. And we never went there again. And I told her I would, and me and her said we would never come back here. It was because of the service we got. Now, could it be that maybe it was a bad day or whatever? Who knows? But one location, okay. Two, nah. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Therefore, therefore, I never went there. So when he said that, I thought that was intriguing because that was my experience at this restaurant. So to wrap it up, this was a very good book. I would recommend this book because it had a lot of nuggets. It's a long read, but there was so much you can learn out of this book. Especially the five commandments he talked about. Talked about the law of affection. He talked about especially the law of need. That's very important. So if you start a business to solve needs and a problem. Don't start a business because of what you love. Okay. So that was very intriguing to me. But I would recommend this book. So hopefully, again, this was of value to you. Share this content. Again, I recommend it. There's no affiliate marketing here, or I'm not affiliated with NJ DeMarco or whatever. I just thought it was a good book and I wanted to share that with you guys. Okay. All right. Appreciate you guys. Tune in to the podcast next week. Much love. Peace.